our 3 to 5 minutes of breathing, standing at the top of our mats. So if you have yourself set up in your own home, you should be with your mat like a diving board, and you're standing on the top of the diving board. That's usually the best way to make sure that you can see what I am talking about. So you will stand like this, but so that I can see you, I will stand like this. Okay, our tall mountain pose. Option to close our eyes here, turning our attention inward. We can come into our bodies or become more aware of our bodies by giving our toes a little wiggle, spreading our toes wide and then planting them into the mat. Drawing energy up our inner thighs. Put a soft little bounce in the knees. Careful that we're not locking. It may be helpful to take one hand front and one hand back on our core. So a hand on belly and a hand on low back, to be sure that we are drawing our abdominal muscles in to support our tall posture. We could keep our hands here or again, release them back into our mountain pose, stretching fingertips down to the earth, spreading our starfish fingers wide. Aligning our spines, we're growing tall, crown of the head or reaching to the clouds. We may like to give our shoulders a big squeeze up to our ears, and then we are relaxing shoulders down and back. Standing evenly balanced between earth and sky in mountain pose. Using this time to remind ourselves that as we move through our yoga poses today, we are breathing, tuning into how we're feeling and listening to our bodies, giving ourselves permission to modify any of our poses or techniques today. No pressure to do more. We are letting go of competition, judgment, and expectation. And we can use our breath to help us stay present. So let's bring our awareness to our 3-part breath for today. Every inhale, we imagine filling our lungs from bottom to top like a glass of water. Inhaling, we feel that we're filling first the bottom third of our lungs. Continuing to inhale, we're filling the middle third. And then we fully inhale, filling the top third of our lungs. With our exhale, reversing that and releasing. You may like this visualization, inhaling our lungs from bottom to top. Or we could be counting with our 3-part breath, inhaling 1, 2, 3. Exhaling 3, 2, 1. Encouraging our breath to be smooth and steady. We can give our breath an additional oomph by engaging our abdominal muscles. With each exhale, drawing our abdominal muscles in to help push the air out just a touch. So this creates additional action in our abs and in our core. We can involve our pelvic floor as well. So we're still inhaling 1, 2, 3, filling our lungs bottom to top. But with our exhale, pulling our abs, the front of our body towards our back, and our pelvic floor muscles, drawing them upwards. We may see our abs as a pyramid. Our pelvic floor is the base of the pyramid. It's the muscles at the bottom of our pelvis, pulling up, creating the strong core foundation. So our abdominal strength, like all of our strength, comes from the inside out. Let's begin to add movement to our breath. We can open our eyes and we'll circle sweep our arms. Inhaling, we're circle sweeping arms to sky. And exhaling, we are drawing hands down through heart center. Let's flow with that pattern. And everybody has their own natural rhythm to life, right? So if you feel that you are like a hummingbird, maybe today we're moving quite quickly, that's all right. We're matching a faster breath to a faster movement. Or maybe we'd like to feel that we are moving through a thick fog, moving slowly but still strong. We can match a slower breath to a slower movement. Feeling out the range of motion in our shoulders. Yes, we could bring the range of motion smaller if our shoulders are not so happy with a large range of motion, right? Doing one more here. When we're ready, we're bringing hands to heart center. And then we're stepping back to face the long edge of our mat, preparing for our sunflowers and our moonflowers. If we want to check our alignment here in our sunflowers and moonflowers, it's a wide squat. So as much as we're comfortable stepping out wide to still feel balanced, that's a great distance for our feet to be apart. Often our big toes point towards the top corners of the mat, so we don't have to have a big turnout. If we want to use our bodies to check our alignment, if we take our arms parallel with the floor and then bend our wrists and point our fingers straight down, our toes are probably right underneath our fingertips. If we're much closer, then we're doing a smaller range of motion. So let's start expanding our bodies on our inhale. And then exhaling, bending elbows and knees together. So if we're feeling we want a smaller range of motion, totally fine. If we are ready to build heat and fire, we want a larger range of motion, we're feeling good in our hips and knees and shoulders today, we can do that. Inhaling out to our 5-pointed star, and then working on strength and flexibility in our inner thighs on the way down. So we are readying ourselves for our warrior poses and our lower body strength. Option to stay here, or we can add a hinge forward for sun pose. So we take our fingertips and draw a circle, making the shape of the sun with our fingertips. We are hinging forward for sunflowers. That same breath pattern, inhaling up and exhaling down. Careful that we're not slumping in our sun pose. We still have our heart center pointed forward. We can give it a couple more here. Let's meet in our 5-pointed star, up and out, making our bodies the shape of an X. And then let's bend back into sun in our knees. And we'll just take our arms to parallel with the floor. Feel it out, what feels more comfortable with our arms. So often we take our palms down. If that makes our shoulders feel a bit cranky, we could have palms forward or palms up. Let's test out our ankles. Can we lift one heel at a time? Maybe some popping or cracking goes on here. Challenging our balance, our concentration. If we would like to do both heels together, we can. Inner thighs are working. Making sure we're still breathing, we can lower down. Let's bring hands to heart. We're stepping to the top of our mat. So we already worked on our hand sandwich. Let's come back to it here. We'll do our swan dive a few times through. So we're taking our pinky to the front of the hip, shifting our hips back so our bodies make roughly the number 7, but we can bend our knees as much as we like to make that happen. So this is our swan dive, and it helps us release down to get from standing to the mat. We reverse that movement, reversing our swan dive, circle sweeping arms to sky, and bringing hands to heart center. We'll do that a couple more times here. Inhaling, arms up, gently tapping our palms overhead if that's a comfortable range of motion. Arms out to the side as we hip hinge down, and we can release our head at the bottom range of motion. Once more, all the way to the top. And let's swan dive to the mat. We'll take it all the way down. So we may need to really bend the knees and then rest belly on thighs to get there, and that might feel quite good. Once we're down in our forward fold, we're stepping back into child's, 1 foot at a time, and shifting our body weight back into child's. So child's is always our opportunity for rest. Let's practice resting here, allowing our bodies to lower down. Arms may be outstretched, or maybe we're stacking fists under forehead, resting our forehead down on our fists. A more restful variation is to sweep all the way in behind. So that would be for a longer pause. Generally, we keep flowing, in which case probably having our forearms down is a great way to do this. Speaking of continuing to flow, let's keep flowing. We'll come up onto all fours in a variation of tabletop, as you might know it, spreading our fingers wide. If it's more comfortable or more stable, we could also do fists instead. Sometimes this is better for cranky wrists or maybe a little bit better for our knuckles, something like that. Let's flow through cat and cow. So for our cat pose, we're pressing firmly into the earth with the hands and with the tops of the feet. And then we make our spines the shape of a rainbow. So we're breathing out in cat. And as we breathe in, we reverse the movement, making our spines the shape of the letter U. We're looking forward, reaching our hearts forward, lengthening our abdominals, and sliding our shoulder blades down the back. So that's our pattern. Let's inhale here in cow, and then exhale as we tuck ourselves into cat. Might be a little bit tough to match our breath to movement through this one. So again, picking a comfortable pace, comfortable range of motion, as long as we are breathing, that is the most important part. And everything else that we layer on is icing on the cake. Let's do one more cow. And we've moved through flexion and extension. Let's feel out a neutral spine. And actually, this is one place where it can be nice to have our camera on or a mirror to be able to look over our shoulder and sort of see, am I neutral in my spine? Hopefully I'm not sagging or dumping or too rounded. I can be in the middle, aligning the spine so that I'm strong and my core muscles are supporting me. We'll go through some variations for spinal balance. So let's start like this. We're going to do opposite pushes. So I'm going to push down through my right hand and my left knee. Okay, so we're pushing down opposites. And then the other side, pushing down left hand and right knee. So we're sort of going for a little walk, just pushing. Push down right hand, left knee, release. Push down left hand, right knee, release. So this hopefully fires up our core. It is a variation of bilateral activation. We can make it a bigger movement. Pressing down through the right hand and the left knee, and we lift the opposites. As we're pressing down, left hand, right knee, we can breathe out. And with our inhale, we can lift up. So again, we go for a little walk. Push down opposites, lift up opposites. Might be more comfortable to take the hands and knees a little bit wider. Sometimes that helps with our balance. We think our hip width apart is really quite close. A little bit wider might be more helpful. If we're ready to make this move bigger, we're still pressing down our opposites, and then we're tapping front and back. We could be tapping just the hands, keeping our pelvis stable. We could be tapping hand and foot. And for some of us, this is a real practice with our patience because we're so accustomed to doing a big lift. If we're really craving a big lift, go for it. But let's be honest with ourselves about the value that we're getting. It may be more useful to do a smaller range of motion tapping or whatever else we like. My personal favorite, I think, is to reach forward. I think this one helps me feel less stiff in my shoulders. All right, let's go once more each way, whatever option we're doing. We've been doing this little breakdown for a while, so I think we are ready to rest in our child's pose again. Shifting hips back, we can take feet together and knees apart to leave space for our bellies to come in between our thighs. So we know child's pose is our resting pose. Let's do a variation that feels like rest. And we'll move through our half series prep, knowing we can, of course, come back into child's if we like. So our half series are what I like to call our yogi push-up. We start from child's, extended child's with the arms forward, the elbows straight, inhaling forward to our kneeling plank, and exhaling to hold our plank. Shifting back into child's, we can add on. So we may like to just hold in plank. Often push-ups are not that valuable for shoulder injuries. But if we would like to add on, we're going to bring our elbows to our ribs, only lowering down a couple centimeters and pressing back up. As we get warmer, we're dropping down maybe a few inches and then pressing back up. I'll give us a little tip that I like as well. Depending on what's going on in our shoulders, instead of our fingers pointed straight forward, we might actually like to take our fingers a little bit externally rotated. Not a lot, just a little bit of turnout. And for some of us, we'll feel that gives us a lot more space to drop into. So go ahead, play with it. See how it feels for you. Pointing our first finger roughly to the top corners of the mat, probably not any more turned out than that. And you may find that, oh yeah, that feels like I have a lot more space opened up. And we're shifting our bodies far enough forward that our elbows look like a bicep curl at the bottom range of motion. We can probably all do a bicep curl, something like that. So we got that 90-degree bend in the elbow. In order to get there, that means we have to really shift our bodies forward to give ourselves a hole to drop into. All right, depending on how quickly we're moving, we can do one or two more. And then we're ready to rest back in child's or maybe downward facing dog. Tucking toes, lifting hips to sky, pedaling out the heels. We can shift our tails side to side. And when we're ready, we're walking forward into forward fold. Bending our knees, reversing our swan dive, and coming back to standing. Flowing chair pose. No rush to get here, but when we're back up to the top, let's flow our chair. So we're sitting down and back into an invisible chair and then standing tall. We can reach our arms forward to counterweight our bums going back. And we can flow the arms in chair. From mountain, sitting down to chair. There are lots of arm variations in any of our poses, but definitely chair pose. Let's practice our arm variations just for fun. So we can be in prayer hands or hands at heart center, as we call it. Maybe we like cactus arms in our poses instead of a straight arm, bending our elbows like we're showing our muscles. And then yes, sometimes we're reaching overhead in a comfortable range of motion without overdoing it. Let's pick our favorite variation for our last chair pose. And then we're standing tall. Let's take a moment to check back in. Option to drink as necessary, maybe bringing hands to heart, checking back in with how we're feeling. We're going to continue our warm-up with our Valley 1, which is our sun salutations. We'll take it down to the mat. Let's swan dive to the mat. So we inhale up, tapping our palms, exhaling, hinging from our hips to come forward. We're taking our right foot back into a kneeling lunge. So we use our front hands to steady us, and our back foot steps way, way, way back, so that as we drop our back knee, we're roughly knee over ankle alignment. And this gives us enough space to extend our hearts forward. We may want to climb up on our front thigh. This might help us feel more tall. And for good measure, let's do our cactus arms here. Full round of breath in, pressing into our front foot for stability. With our exhale, we're taking our hands on either side of our front foot and stepping back into child's pose. Let's add on from our basic kneeling crocodile or yogi push-up. We'll do our half series. So from extended child, so we're spreading our fingers wide, shifting our body weight forward, lowering all the way down onto our bellies through our push-up, and then using the strength in our backs for a back extension or cobra pose here. If we can float our hands off the mat, fantastic. If not, we can use them for a little bit of support. We'll release our hands back beside us to reverse our push-up, draw from the belly back into child's. And we're stepping forward into kneeling lunge. So we take our right foot forward. Maybe we need to take 2 steps or it gets stuck partway through. We can hold our right ankle with our right hand, take it a little bit wider to get there and step it forward. Pressing down with our hands on the mat or on our thigh. Option for cactus arms. Inhaling, feeling tall. And our exhale brings our hands down to frame our front foot. Stepping forward into forward fold. We're reversing our swan dive. We'll come all the way to the top and then sit down and back into our favorite expression of chair pose for today. That's one full round. Let's do the other side. Swan diving forward. We're taking our left foot back into lunge or kneeling lunge. Hands can be on the mat or wherever it's most useful. Inhaling to hold. And exhaling to take our hands down. Shifting back, child's pose. Moving through our half series here for some upper body strength. Inhaling forward, exhaling to draw the belly in as we lower all the way down. And then inhaling in our cobra, lots of length through the front and the back of the body. Shifting back to child's pose. Maybe we would like that extra help in our lunge forward. So instead of a giant step forward, we could take 2 steps. We could bring our left foot forward and then help it to the top of the mat. Aligning ourselves for a kneeling lunge. Full breath in. And we're ready to step forward into our forward fold. Strong bend in those knees so that we're lifting ourselves up with our glutes. And then exhaling down and back into chair. Okay, feel free to keep going the kneeling versions of all of those. Otherwise, I will show us how to get off the knee through the next couple rounds. Right foot comes back into our lunge. We can have the hands down, up, or maybe we like our cactus arms again. Full breath in. We're taking our hands down on either side of our front foot. We're stepping back, and we really have to push down to get our bums up, to give ourselves a hole to move our legs through. For our half series or our kneeling half series, we're coming forward into plank or kneeling plank. Shifting more forward to give ourselves room to drop into, elbows to ribs, and then we're opening our hearts in cobra or upward facing dog. If we're in upward facing dog, thighs are off the mats. Let's push down. Pressing back to down dog or child's. Let's take our right foot between our hands. Same as with our kneeling lunge. We might come up halfway and use our hand to get up the rest of the way. But what's a big help is if we press our hands down, come onto our tippy toes, that gives us more of a space to move our leg through underneath us. Okay, we're pushing down into the front heel to give us stability if we're standing tall. Taking our hands down with our next exhale, forward fold. Reversing our swan dive, sitting back and down into chair. Okay, last time here. So we've done 2 modified and 2 off the knees for sun cells. Left foot goes back, lunge or kneeling lunge, our favorite expression. Stepping back to down dog or child's. Choosing to rest or flow through our half series or our modified half series in our plank or kneeling plank, push up or kneeling push up. Whoop. Up dog or cobra. From down dog to step our left foot forward, let's lift those hips high. Taking 1 or 2 steps to get our left foot to the top of the mat. Lunge. Exhaling, forward fold. Inhaling to reverse our swan dive. And exhaling to sit down and back into chair. Oh, okay, let's pause here in chair. We're gonna hold. We've done a lot of movement. Let's find our center in stillness. Bringing ourselves back into the present. Tuning into our breath, the beating of our own hearts. Remembering that for chair, we could always bring hands to thighs, cactus, reaching forward. Let's do one more chair pose, resetting at the top. Exhaling to sit down. Wherever we would like our hands to be, let's test out our ankles just like we did with sun pose, lifting one heel at a time. And if we would like, lifting both heels together. Holding 3, 2, 1. We slowly release those heels. Let's reset. Circle sweep arms to sky. Exhaling, hands to heart. Let's swan dive one more time. Many more times actually, but one more time just for now. And we'll step our way back to down dog or child. And we use this as an opportunity for rest or flow. So maybe we want to be just in our child's pose, chilling. We may like to flow through another half series or yogi push-up flow. And then we'll all meet in child's, and I'll lead us through a little down dog drill that we can do for ourselves. So in order to set our alignment for our warriors and our standing poses, our hands and our feet need to be set a certain distance apart. So our feet are hip distance apart from one another. Our hands are shoulder distance apart from one another. But a good hand to foot distance is if we can shift back and forth from our plank to our down dog seamlessly, which means that most of us have a down dog that's too wide. And every time we shift forward, we have to adjust our feet. So let's come forward into a plank, adjust our feet so that they're close enough so that we can have our shoulders over our wrists. And then from there, we shift back into down dog, which probably means that we're bending our knees more, but that's great because then our muscles are action ready, right? Like we're ready to jump or we're ready to pounce. Now our knees are more bent. So we can feel that out anytime to double check our alignment. Our hands and feet are glued to the mat. We can shift front and back between plank and down dog. We've practiced our alignment and I hope we're warm. We've also worked in some core strength. All right, for now, let's actually do a kneeling plank. We'll go ahead and drop the right knee under the right hip. If we've set our plank alignment, we're probably in good shape. We'll kickstand out our right foot, planting our left foot flat. So we have right hand, knee, and foot flat on the mat. And we're ready to lift up with our left hand. Pressing down with the right, growing tall with the left. Length and strength through both sides of the body. Our next exhale, we'll bring our hands back down. Moving through all fours, pivoting to the other side. When we're ready for our kneeling side plank, starfishing or maybe fists for wrists on our left hand. Long and strong through both arms. Careful we're not snapping the elbows, a soft little bend so that the muscles around the joint are still engaged. Maybe we feel a little bit of a stretch in the outside of the right foot, prepping for our warrior poses with the ankle flexibility here. So we can do this variation again, or maybe we are feeling like we want to do a plank that's off our knees. So moving from downward facing dog, we can drop our knee and pivot into our kneeling side plank, or we can roll onto the outer edges of the feet for our side plank. If our wrist and elbow aren't quite so happy as we roll to the other side, we could also be on our forearms. So we have lots of options here for our side plank. Kneeling, not kneeling, hand or wrist. We'll come back through center. And let's go ahead. I've taken us out of alignment so I can give us a fun little test. Let's figure out where our downward facing dog is. Coming into plank, shifting back into down dog, seeing if we still have that seamless flow. Let's make our way into our warrior series. So from our downward facing dog, let's lift our right foot to create some length. Coming onto our left tiptoe, pressing down through both hands so we have this big hole to step through. Maybe we're taking our foot a little bit wider. Sometimes that's easier too. We're planting our back foot down, in this case, our left foot down for warrior one. Okay, we have an opportunity to get off our wrists. Might want to give them a little circle. We can have a gentler practice for our upper body, hands at heart or cactus. If we're feeling conventional, we can have our arms overhead. Let's take our hands down on either side of our foot. We're stepping back. Options for rest or upper body heat. We can move through our yogi push-up flow, coming into plank or kneeling plank, lowering down through our push-up or our kneeling push-up, strong backs, cobra, or upward facing dog. Let's all meet in our down dog. And if we're in child, it's just a little bit trickier as we step the left foot forward to make our way into lunge and then up to warrior one. So it is possible. We don't get that funky variation from down dog, stepping the leg forward. All right. If we're feeling conventional, we can have our traditional warrior one arms. Sometimes it's more comfortable just flipping the palms to face forward, or bending the elbows, or taking the hands a bit wider like we're holding a beach ball overhead, a very big beach ball. Let's take one more round of breath here. And our exhale brings our hands down. Options for rest or flow, making our way through our half series or resting. We are adding on from our downward facing dog, lifting the right leg to create space, stepping our right foot between our hands, planting our left foot back down flat on an angle. We're going to climb up through warrior one, and then windmill open into warrior two. And to accommodate that movement, we probably have to take our back foot just a touch further back. If we're okay with this really long stance, then we're probably feeling powerful. We can check our alignment. Our hands are right over top of our feet. Our knee is over top of our ankle. So in order to, listen to me and look at me and listen, sometimes we forget about checking ourselves out. Let's take a look. Is the back foot flat? Front foot pointed towards the short edge of the mat? Are we working hard, but not too hard? Can we be soft, but not too soft? We'll hold on to our warrior two legs as we do our reverse warrior, flipping our front palm, adding lateral flexion to this. So we are lengthening through the right side of the ribs. Can we sneak a peek at that front knee, making sure knee is still over top of ankle? Let's take front arm to front thigh for side angle pose. So still our strong warrior two base, neutral spine as we come through. If we want to get low, bring our bums with us. For side angle, we're pushing down into our front leg with our front forearm and extending our fingertips up towards the sky. Lots of inner thigh strength here. Let's challenge ourselves for some inner thigh flexibility. Let's turn this into triangle simply by straightening the front leg. I say simply, but easier said than done. And now our right hand can be on our thigh or our shin, possibly the floor for triangle, revolving heart center towards the side wall. So it's triangle pose, but we are square towards the side wall. A well-deserved break. Let's take our hands down to the long edge of the mat. We'll turn all 10 toes to the long edge of the mat here for our wide-legged forward fold. Bending our knees enough that the floor becomes accessible. We can still have some strength here. So hands under shoulders. Our real flexibility work gets left for the very end of class. So we're just pausing for a moment here. We'll get another shot at wide-legged forward fold, but for now, let's walk our hands back to the top of the mat. And we're stepping back, down dog or child's, option to rest or flow. Meeting in downward facing dog, we're on our second side.
pressing into each knuckle joint of our fingers, strong foundation in the hands, lifting the left leg to create space, stepping our left foot between our hands, stepping our right foot down on an angle, climbing up through warrior one, and then squaring ourselves to the long edge of the mat. Sometimes we might feel a little bit tight when we first come into our warrior two. We need to bend and straighten or wiggle our toes, and then we can settle in more fully. Pausing here, noticing shoulders. Would we be better off with our palms forward or up? Palm strength in warrior two. Reversing our warrior, our strong warrior two base stays the same. Backhand lightly landing on our back thigh. Adding a side bend to our spines here. Left arm coming up. We could also have our fingertip on our shoulder if that's a bit much for the arm, or like fingertips behind our ears, like we're doing crunches kind of variation. That may be much more comfortable. Our neck and our alignment may also be a bit more comfortable if we turn to look towards our backhand. So we have lots of options here. As long as we got that strong warrior two base and a side bend in our spine, we can add our own personal flavor here. Inhale some extra length, feeling the expansion through the left rib cage. Exhaling, moving through our warrior two base, keeping that warrior two base. Side angle pose, front hand or thigh to front arm. We may be an extended side angle with the hand down towards the mat, but it's about dropping through the lower body while still remaining lifted through the upper body. Right fingertips are reaching towards the sky. Can we be breathing fully here? Keep the breath steady. Turning this into our triangle pose by straightening our front leg and then hand resting where it falls. We can take our hand to the inside of the leg, a little bit of resistance against the leg to help us turn so that we're square to the side wall. Looking out across the long edge of the mat instead of down towards the floor. Next exhale brings us down, our little breather. I'll stay turned to face you. So we're turning all 10 toes to the long edge of the mat, coming into our forward fold. A bit more limber here today in our second forward fold. And then let's have again some freedom of expression. Staying process oriented. There's no proper prescription for our wide-legged forward fold. We can be bending and straightening both knees together or one at a time. Maybe shifting hands a little bit further forward, kind of like a downward dog variation for the upper body, but not nearly so much weight on our wrists. We're going to make our way towards the top edge of the mat, framing our front foot, and we're stepping back, option to rest or flow. So we may need a breather at this point, or we may still be stoking our internal fire, moving through our half series, plank or kneeling plank, crocodile or kneeling crocodile, up dog or cobra. Moving into forward fold. So we're walking hands and feet towards one another, taking as many steps as we need. We can take hands to thighs, and we may even prefer to come up through monkey, or maybe you know it as flat back or half back. Sometimes after doing all that movement and then coming down to the floor, we get dizzy if we come up too quickly. So we can let our hands rest wherever feels right for our alignment so that our spines are neutral. We pause at the halfway point to breathe, and then we bring ourselves all the way up. I am quite prone to dizziness going from bottom to top, so I tend to take extra time. From mountain, let's take a half step back with our right foot. We're coming into short stance warrior one. So if we're familiar with Tai Chi, it's a bit more like a Tai Chi stance. We've come to the peak of our mountain 2 workout phase. We're going to gently start to descend towards our cool down. Instead of our full warrior one, we're in our half stance or short stance. We may like cactus arms here. Maybe we want to wing the arms back in an expression of chest expansion. Making our way into pyramid. So I'm going to come where you can see me a little bit better. We're going to keep this tall posture as we hinge our hips forward. Another opportunity to check that hand sandwich. For more core challenge in pyramid, we can have our arms continuing to wing back, airplane arms, sort of like our mountain pose in our arms. We probably feel our core kick in. But if we're craving more of a hamstring stretch, we can straighten our front thigh or have hand to thigh. We can have our hand down our shin. And at this point, we're at a good vantage point. We can see all 10 toes should be pointed straight forward to the top edge of the mat. So maybe we want to tweak that out if something wonky is happening. We use this to set up for half moon balance. So we'll make a tripod with our hands and our front foot so that we have a 3-point balance on the mat. We might have to really be bent like we're ready to start a race to get down there. And then we use the strength in our right glute to lift our right leg up. And we open not too different a position from our kneeling side plank in our half moon balance. If half moon balance is super tricky, we could have both hands down, or maybe even coming up higher into more like a figure skater variation, using our thigh for support. Smaller range of motion is always what makes these things more accessible, but it looks fancy if we're in this big range of motion. To come out of this pose, we'll all meet in our forward fold. We can inhale through the nose, exhale through the mouth, or blow through the lips. Let some tension go. We know now, as we're coming out of our swan dive, we can pause halfway in monkey, pressing hands into legs to give us more extension through our spines. And then coming all the way up, resetting in mountain. 2 sides. Here we go. Strong base, short stance warrior one, left foot back. All 10 toes point towards the front edge of the mat. We know where we're going. Let's have a healthy sense of anticipation. Let all thoughts of half moon balance go. Let's focus on the here and now in our short stance warrior one. How are we feeling in our warrior one? Do we want more cactus arms? Would we like more of a chest expansion? We keep our aligned spine as we hinge forward into pyramid. Hands can be at heart, winging back to challenge our core. If we're really craving that hamstring stretch, we can go deeper, further down the leg, as long as we can maintain our neutral spine. Or maybe for today, our yoga practice is really about letting go of the need to do more. Quality, not quantity. Preparing for our half moon balance, bending our knees as much as we need to get down there, taking our hands a little wider than shoulder width apart, probably on the mat, planting into our front foot, unweighting our back foot, using the strength in the back of the left leg to lift the back leg up. We can be tapping down as much as we need to work on our balance. So if it's really windy for you today, you're falling all over the place, maybe our half moon balance is to lift and tap. Or if we feel like Look, Mom, look what I can do. Yes, of course. Don't let me hold you back or push you too far. We are each finding our own way on our yoga journey. We have that figure skater variation we can do as well. Up much higher or hands to hips. Right, so that's a much more accessible variation, I think, to go from our pyramid to a figure skater. For good measure, let's meet again in our forward fold, resetting back on the earth, resting belly on thighs. We can give our heads a gentle shake, no. And then we're nodding our heads, yes, releasing tension and also silently encouraging ourselves. We're coming all the way up to the top, reversing our swan dive. Let's do our chest expansion here before we cool it down. So we'll give ourselves a double thumbs up. Draw our thumbs to the wall behind us. So our thumbs we're just using as a landmark, kind of that hitchhiking alignment, pulling back. We can stay here in our forward fold, if this is, or in our forward fold, in our chest expansion. If this is your favorite variation of chest expansion, go for it. We can be reaching back, pressing our hands towards one another. We can hold our shirt or our pant legs if we want something to hold on to, or of course, we can interlace. There is another variation of this where we add this to our forward fold. So again, maybe our yoga practice today is more mental, letting go of the pressure to do more, the need to do more. If this is your favorite pose to do chest expansion with forward fold, go for it. If our favorite pose is not that, giving ourselves license to be our own teacher, chest expansion. And if monkey see, monkey do is your favorite practice, you just want to do whatever I'm doing, that is okay too. We will all meet back in mountain, giving ourselves the opportunity to circle sweep the arms, resetting. And this gives us time as a placeholder. We all know where mountain is. We all know where circle sweep is. So some of us may be a little bit slower coming out of that forward fold with chest expansion. This gives them time to catch up and meet with the rest of us. We are ready for our cool down, Valley 2, 3 to 5 breaths per pose, free pose. Let's pick a side to work on. And I like to pick actually the more natural feeling side since most of us have done tree before. I'm going to test it out. I'm shifting my weight. Okay, for today, I'm going to be on this leg. So we have our grounded leg, and then we have our unweighted leg. Let's tap our toes of our unweighted leg. We're going to use the strength in the outer hip muscles to revolve open. We can bring our foot to the inside of our ankle, pressing foot into ankle, ankle into foot. So we have this pressure pressing in, which usually helps to fire up our inner thighs, our core, and help us to stand taller. We can move up the leg to our lower leg. We generally avoid pressing on the knee. And if we can give ourselves just a feather light touch, bringing the leg all the way up, that's another option too. Pressing foot into leg, leg into foot. Trees have branches. Let's grow some branches. Elbows bent or straight, arms high or low. Can we do a full 3-part breath here? Inhaling, belly, ribs, chest. Exhaling, releasing. If we fall out of the tree, let's reset so we train success. And then in our own time, we're climbing out of the tree with control. We're ready for the other side. Ideally, our good side has taught our other side how to do it. So now we're going to have 2 good sides. We may like to have our hands on our hips actually to set our alignment up. We shift our body weight to our grounded leg. I had a teacher who would say, have just 1 martini, but not 2. All right. So we have this little weight shift, external rotation from our hip in tree, foot planted or not. We can pick a spot to stare on the floor. We can be hands at heart center or have big long branches or anywhere in between. Find that moment of success. And then our exhale helps us come on down. We may like to shake it off. I don't know about the temperature in whichever space we're in at home. We are going to bring ourselves down to the mat. We have a little bit more movement. Some of us might want to put some socks on. Inhaling up, exhaling, swan diving towards our mats. Let's make our way back to child's. And we're setting ourselves up to lie on our bellies. Now, if any of us are unable to lie on our bellies today, we just ate a big meal or whatever's going on, I'll give us either some side lying variations, or we could be on all fours instead. If we're okay to lie on our bellies, let's come all the way down onto our bellies. And we'll do a variation of locust here. So for our locust pose, sometimes it's comfortable to prop the forearms up just to take a look at me. If you think of maybe as a kid, you watched TV on the carpet looking up towards the television. Maybe not. But we're going to have our legs straight. And let's take our feet to press towards one another. So we're zipping up our legs into a mermaid tail, merman tail, merperson tail, pressing the tops of the feet down for stability, pressing down through the entire front of our pelvis. So our hip bones in the front and our pubic bone. Let's take our thumbs to our shoulders to set our alignment for this one. We are lengthening as we are lifting into cobra. If we feel we want to lift our legs as well, we can lift our mermaid tail in one solid piece or lift one leg at a time. If we're only lifting one leg, let's switch to the other leg. And then as we're ready to do so, we're lowering down, maybe taking our feet wider on the mat, bending our knees, windshield wiping our legs to loosen up. And we always have the option to rest our forehead down. And a variation of sleeping crocodile to give our necks a break. And I did say some of us might be in tabletop. You could be resting back in child's. Sorry, forgot that kind of important detail. Okay, so if we don't want to be lying on our bellies, we can do a side lying quad stretch, just like we would do standing, except side lying. If we would like to work through bow or half bow, I will lead us through that. So we're propping ourselves up on our right forearm, left hand to left ankle, kicking away, creating dynamic tension by resisting the kick with the strength of the upper body. And I'll give us the option to do this through twice, so we can get the right and the left. If anybody loves a bow with both legs together, that's another option here. And then we're probably more aware of rocking with the breath in this variation. So to set up for our second side, let's pause again for a moment. We can shake the hips off, rest the forehead down. Okay, so if we're doing side lying, we're rolling to one side, quad stretch. If we're doing our single leg bow, we're propping ourselves up and then adding a quad stretch. Sometimes the pant leg gets stuck on the mat, or we kind of get our t-shirt stuck in our underarm. Might have to do a circle with the arm and a lift with the leg to create some more space there. And once we can reach back, just careful not to grab the top of the foot. We're aiming for the ankle, or we could hold sock, or maybe you have sometimes people wear shoes. You could put your fingers in the inside of the shoe. Even better probably is our pant leg, and that gives us a little bit more space, easier on our gripping of our ankle. Sometimes there's discomfort in the ankle or the top of the foot. So use whatever we have as a prop. In this case, if it's our pant leg, go ahead. All right, so as we are lowering down or releasing, let's check in with our low back. So if we're in child's, the same thing. If by some chance you did side lying bow and you're not with me here, Doesn't matter. We're putting our mind into our backs, feeling it out. And let's think about where we need to go to keep our low backs happy as we come out of this position. We may like to come into all fours for a neutral spine, maybe a little cat and cow, loosening up the low back. Perhaps somewhere halfway between cat and child's is a good place to create some more length, or simply lowering again into child's, our familiar resting place. So we're working towards a chest and shoulder stretch. I'll give us a variation of camel here. Usually camel is done from kneeling. Now I know it's an acquired taste to be on the kneecaps, so we can double our mats under our knees if that helps to give us more cushion. Some of us may be more comfortable sitting on the heels, and then some of us may be just completely in a seated position. All right. Yogi's choice with whatever we need to do to keep the lower body comfortable. To add our chest expansion, we are sweeping our arms behind us. We could have fingertips on the mat as well if we are sitting on our bums. We might like to take our fists to the back of our pelvis, so not in the low back, pushing our bellies forward, but lower down. So we might have a little bit of a press forward in the hips, but still staying pretty neutral. Draw the elbows together. If we love chest expansion, we can again have our arms with our elbows extended, clasping our fingers, aiming for straight wrists here. So we can imagine a big, beautiful orange between our hands, and we squeeze it to make orange juice. Lifting our hearts, engaging a touch of a back bend. Maybe our eyebrows lift with it. We can press our tongue to the roof of the mouth or reach our lips towards the sky as well. Kissing the ceiling. And then let's release and lower down. To make our way into seated, for all of us, we're sitting to one hip and we can swing the legs around. It is cold, it is chilly, it may be dark and gloomy where you are. Let's do sunbather's pose. So from staff, we're gonna have toes pointed up. So like a neutral kind of, what's the word? Like a mountain pose in our feet to begin so that we have engagement of our muscles. Or if we would like to point once we get up there, either or, as long as our feet aren't limply flopping around. That's where I'm going with this. Okay, so the muscles of our feet are engaged. We probably feel that translate up the rest of the leg. If it's super tough to be here with our legs straight, guess what? We can still have our feet engaged, but our knees bent as much as we need to come into a neutral spine. Our sunbather's pose. We're taking our hands behind us to catch just a touch of our body weight. We could be on our fingertips. We can have flat hands, but our fingers are either pointed to the short edge of the mat in front of us or east-west to the long edges of the mat. We really want to avoid our fingers pointing backwards. It's not ideal for the safety and security of our shoulders. So fingers forward or side, legs straight or bent, like that movie Flashdance. We're going to open our hearts to the sky, open our hearts to the sun. We may close our eyes here, welcoming in a gentle smile. Pressing down with our flat hands or fingertips so that we still have dynamic tension even as we're relaxing. Coming up through seated, let's draw the soles of the feet towards one another for a variation of butterfly, coming in only as close as feels natural. So we're not yanking or forcing, simply drawing in. Give our butterfly wings a little flutter. Taking our tall spine and hinging forward. We can draw chin to chest to lengthen out the back of the neck. We could even take a hand back there to double check our alignment. Smooth through the back of the neck. To help us release, we may even like to swallow. Sometimes that helps. We're coming back to staff pose and drawing our knees up. And we may like to windshield wipe the legs to loosen them up or shake them out. Let's do our second variation of our chest expansion, and it'll give us something different to do. So we have our sunbather's pose, whatever variation of sunbather's pose we chose. If we want more sensation, a little more gusto in our pose, we can plant our flat hands either fingers forward or east-west for a variation of incline plank. So we're pressing down, we're engaged. We can walk our feet in to plant one or both feet. Usually the fan favorite is to have one leg straight and one leg bent. So I'll lead us through that, pressing down through feet and hands to lengthen the front of the body in incline plank. So there are many variations to incline plank. I find this is the crowd pleaser, lengthening through the front of the arms and the chest without locking the elbows. And again, we can be pointing or flexing as long as something is going on with our free foot to keep it engaged. And instead of rotating out or in neutral, to switch sides, we can sit down and reset, or for additional challenge, walk in through tabletop and extend the other way. So this is a while for us to be on our hands in this range of motion. So yeah, we might want to reset or give ourselves a rest. Even though I give us this much time to be in the pose, that doesn't always mean that we will benefit from this much time to be in the pose. And we know a break is coming, don't we? Let's take one more breath in, lifting a touch higher. And then as we exhale, lowering down, extending into staff, lifting tall, and coming into a variation of forward fold. For a more gentle, cozy variation of forward fold, especially if our hamstrings are tight, we might still have our feet planted this whole time, releasing our bodies over our legs. Probably feeling our breath more in our backs now, enjoying that full back body breath. Returning back to a seated position to make our way back into supine. Similar to what we did with our staff with one leg bent, we'll use one bent leg to gently roll all the way down. So our leg counterbalances our upper body weight coming down to keep it more comfortable and accessible for the low back. Once we're down here, tuning in, checking in with how we're doing, and taking a moment to give ourselves what we need here. We can draw knees to chest, giving ourselves a big hug. Maybe we're rocking side to side, relaxing our low back. We can plant our feet and windshield wipe side to side. So at any time, we can reset or readjust with knees to chest or windshield wipe. For now, let's meet in knees to chest. We'll build just a touch of heat before we come into our relaxation so that we can maintain some warmth in the body. From knees to chest, we'll let our feet go for bridge pose. We might like to do actually a little bit of a crunch here. So we could take our fingertips to our core, drawing our abdominals in as we check our alignment. So our knees are hip width apart, And if we take a look one side and then the other, our heels are roughly hip width apart, meaning our hip bones width apart. People are often comfortable just a touch wider than their hip bones. And then we're set pretty well for strength here. Taking arms alongside our body, we can walk our shoulder blades underneath our back a bit, creating more length through the back of the neck and across our collarbones, spreading our fingers wide to help us engage the muscles of our feet. Let's press into our heels to lift our hips into bridge, creating a strong diagonal line from our knees to our chest, holding here. We can continue to add chest expansion, interlacing fingers underneath our back. If we can walk our shoulder blades underneath our backs and keep it comfortable for the upper body. Maybe that's not working for us. We want to hold the edges of the mat, create some resistance, pulling the hands away from one another, gripping the mat and kind of ripping it out. Or we may like hands underneath our hips, helping to lift our hips high here. Wherever we are, let's do another full round of breath or two here. If bridge is a favorite pose, we know we can stay longer. If it is not our favorite pose, we can leave. Draw knees to chest, get some length back into our glutes. Let's make our way into a simple supine twist. We'll let our feet plant. Might be a little bit different than we've done before in our lives. Let's take our hips, we're going to offset them. So we're taking our pelvis towards the right side of the mat. So we lift and shift. And then we straighten our left leg. So we've moved right, we straighten left. Then we come into our twist. So that as we twist, we're on the left side pocket side of our body. If all of that was very confusing, let me walk us through it again. So if we're in supine twist and we're comfy, that's totally fine. We're attempting to offset our pelvis so that our spine is aligned when we come into our twist. So from sort of our bridge prep or ab prep, lift hips to the right, and then our knees fall to the left. Hips right, legs left. We can have our knees stacked, or like I did, that bottom leg can be straight first before we twist. Very often, gravity does almost everything while we're here. We have to focus on breathing, of course. Encouraging our exhale to slow down here. Our right arm is free. It can lift out to the side or up overhead. Our left hand may be gently guiding the right knee down. Making our way back through center. Let's reset ourselves on the mat. We can again come into knees to chest. Maybe we're giving ourselves a big hug or curling up. And then we're releasing our legs to set up on the second side. So our feet are planted so that we can lift our hips like we're going into bridge, but we're not going to go into bridge. We're taking our hips to the left side of the mat. We've created a hole beside us for our legs to move into. We can stack the knees, or we're straightening our right leg first and then taking our left knee across. So we're on our total side of our leg instead of being kind of stuck on our bums. Our left arm is free to be out to the side or up overhead. Our right hand may be gently drawing our knee down. If this feels like way too much range of motion, yes, we can have our knees stacked. We can have our fist between our knees or under them, whichever makes more sense for you. We may also just let our knees kind of flop to one side if the twisting is too much a range of motion for our back. So maybe we set up and we're kind of awkwardly stuck halfway because it's not comfortable. We unwind, we reset, and just let the knees plant to one side Let them knock over, fall wherever they fall. This is our lazy variation, smaller range of motion, so we're comfortable in our low back. If anything feels not quite right, let's find a variation that feels much better. So not every pose is going to be our favorite pose, but hopefully we can find a modification or an approximation that feels beneficial to our body or our minds. All right. If we're feeling balanced and ready to come back through center, we can again reset. Maybe a long stretch this time. Moving into pigeon, a variation of figure 4. Our feet are planted, right ankle over left thigh. And sort of like we're cloud gazing or stargazing, we can stay here easy breezy. Sometimes we like to use hands under head as a pillow. If we're craving more sensation, then we can reach behind our left thigh, drawing in. We may like a rock side to side. There is also a cradle to baby variation where we take the inner crease of our elbow to the outer edge of our right foot, give our leg a big hug. So we're using strength in the upper body, hugging in like we are cradling a baby. And then our left leg is free to release along the mat. And whatever variation we're in, we can add rocking or swaying, that kind of gentle rocking, swaying movement, just like we would with a baby. Our bodies as adults get the same value. Just like we would like to be in a hammock, gentle breeze, we can give that same sensation to our bodies here. We'll rewind out of however we got here, and then we're ready for the second side. Feet are planted, left ankle over right thigh. We may stay here, cloud gazing or stargazing. As much as we feel we want to go further faster, this pause can help with our relaxation response. Once we feel we've settled into this variation, we can draw the legs in. And usually we say that we just don't want to yank the foot out of alignment. So our foot looks like mountain pose. In this case, it's our left foot. If we flex the right foot as well, that's fine. But definitely our left foot looks like mountain pose. We don't want to take the hand and yank it. Sometimes they used to call it a sickle foot. I don't know if anybody knows what a sickle is anymore, but just that the foot is rotated inwards. If we want to hold heel and knee, cool. Behind the right thigh, cool. If we want to cradle our baby, taking the inside of the elbow to the outside of the foot, our opposite arm comes around. So we have hand over hand, and then the opposite leg, in this case, our right leg, is free to straighten. And we should keep it comfortable. So if doing this means that we're popped way off the mat, we can't breathe, we can't swallow. Okay, too far, too fast. Let's come down to a different variation where we can have relaxation through the upper body, neck and head. And just due to our own personal posture, some of us may be really far off the mat. We can roll the top of the mat or get a cushion under the head to bring us more into neutral. Okay, can we take a full breath in and a long, slow breath out?
When we're ready, we can release, bringing in whatever movement we need at this point. There may be some final pose we'd like to do. We can throw that in here now. I'm just gonna grab a blanket to put over my feet. The floors are a little cold. So we'll finish supine. So if we're lying on our backs, fantastic. We have nowhere else to go. We'll do our final relaxation here. Keeping in mind it is called final relaxation, so the pose that we're in should be relaxing. It's conventional to lie in Shavasana or corpse pose or relaxation, sometimes called starfish pose, that our feet are wider than the mat and our hands are wider than the mat. But being flat on the back like that isn't comfortable for everyone. So if we did want to bend the knees and let the knees kind of tent in towards one another, that may be more comfortable. We can lie on one side in baby pose. Occasionally, I've seen people lie on their stomachs. But we'll be in stillness here for a few minutes. And I would hate for any of us to be really uncomfortable just waiting for it to be over instead of enjoying it. So let's use this as an opportunity for enjoyment, getting into a comfortable position where we can sit, where I can sit, where you can settle in supine, in final relaxation. So we let out our final fidgets. Perhaps we're inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth a few times. It may be quite relaxing to let some noise out. Right, give it a little sigh. And then we're bringing our awareness back to our breathing. So even though it looks like we're lying here not doing anything, we are. This is where the real value of exercise actually happens in the body, is in the recovery. So exercise is great, but it is a stress on the body. Inflammation goes up. We're working hard. And the value, where we get stronger, our cardiovascular health improves, is really in the relaxation that follows. We can intensify this recovery process with our breath. Let's come back to our 3-part breath. Inhaling, 1, 2, 3. Exhaling, 3, 2, 1. Stretching our breath out to be 10% fuller, 10% deeper, with 10% less effort. Noticing if we're holding any tension in the body. Can we encourage it to go? Maybe fidget a little bit. Let that muscular tension leave the body. Option to add our sinking breath here. So still our regular 3-part breath inhale. Noticing all parts of the body that are pressing in to the earth below. With each exhale, allowing those parts to feel heavier. So using our mental intention to allow ourselves to sink with each exhale. Full inhale. And then a heavy, comfortable, settling feeling with each exhale. We can stretch out our exhale. So if we're using counting, we could be inhaling for 3 and exhaling for 6. Slowing down our count as we slow down our breath, stretching out our exhale longer as we relax further. Feeling full and lifted with the inhale. Feeling settled and supported with the exhale. Scanning our bodies head to toe, noticing how we're feeling in the here and now. Seeing if we can choose a word or several words to describe how we're feeling in this moment, knowing that it may change in the very next moment and may be different than the moment that came before it. For today, we'll finish in this spot, in this pose. We'll take a break, so no rush to get up, but let's gather our focus and our attention together. We can take our hands over heart center if we like. Taking a moment to thank our bodies for carrying us through this practice. Thanking our minds for focus, energy, and effort so far. And thanking our own inner spirit for bringing us to this point in our lives. Thank you so much for joining me here today. From my light to yours, namaste.